I think it'd be a question of duration for first of all, how long would this last? If you took those aircraft out of service immediately this time of year, when schedules are probably below what they would be during peak flying, you might be able to cycle some other aircraft into the fleet. You would probably have to make some changes, particularly as a network carrier if you're banking aircraft in and out. But it would certainly require you to spool up some older, less efficient aircraft, incur some additional cost. You'd also be looking at the consequential losses of consumers trying to look at this thing and say, okay, do I want to book a travel on that particular aircraft? Do I want to switch to another aircraft? And I think the real longer-term implications of something like this would be from, frankly, the flying public getting a little bit more concerned about the safety of the air travel experience in the U.S., which remains incredibly safe. We don't have the data points to really kind of handicap
Sure.
what this issue is. But the real issue is going to be around near-term revenue loss from passengers kind of moving to different flights, additional costs to accommodate this, maybe with less efficient aircraft, maybe with schedule changes, and then the inconveniences that you'd have that might affect your customer perception.
So
that could ripple into the
way I
summer
understand
months.
it, David, is that it's hard to quantify depending on how long any sort of stoppage would be. At the same time, I mean, don't the airlines have to weigh the immediate hit to revenue from service disruption and also a reputational risk? I mean, doesn't it look bad for American to stand by the planes, but have the flight attendants say we don't feel safe on these planes?
It's a very good question. I think it's hard to be to really care to respond to that. I would bet that the anxiety levels in the boardrooms making these decisions are high. I would not characterize this as a situation where either American or Southwest are sitting with their head in their sand, their head in the sand, hoping the FAA says it's okay. You kind of have to step back and look at this, right? There's two airlines that have been flying this aircraft the longest, are Southwest and American. They've got a lot of experience with it. They've got a lot of feedback from their pilots. They're also two incredibly safe airlines if you look over time. They are balancing the risk of what might happen in the short time between when we might start to get some more data about the real cause of this crash with some of the other consequential risks that could happen if they were to shake consumers' confidence in that aircraft longer term, if they were to make some short-term changes that would potentially create some longer-term consequences. I think really that's what they're trying to balance. Incredibly difficult position to be in. And because we don't just know yet what exactly caused this crash or how it could be impactful to the long-lived nature of this airframe.
Southwest, though, so far this week, David, I mean, just to push back a little bit, Southwest has lost about 3% so far this week in market cap, 2.5% roughly. I mean, does that size of market cap, is that greater or less than the hit to EPS potentially short term if it said, well, we're going to ground these particular planes for this particular week? I mean, when you're also in the boardroom weighing sort of the pros and cons of grounding this, I mean, you got to look at that too. Investors are worried.
Absolutely. Investors are worried. I think these stocks are volatile. They react to changes in unit revenue. You're also at a time with airline stocks more broadly where people are very concerned about the cycle, the competitive dynamic that's happening. Is there going to be enough growth to kind of meet everyone's lofty expectations for margin expansion, and will the market support that kind of fare issue? This kind of data point that could show up in weaker unit revenue is certainly not good for any of the airlines. And it's not just Southwest and American. United is also feeling the pain. Delta's been a little bit free, but they were even down a little bit yesterday on this news. I don't think you can look at this in any way and say, wow, this is going to be good for the U.S. domestic airline industry. That said, these stocks are volatile. They react to these data points. And if this does turn out to be something that with training or with small sort of fixes that we can get through, this will be near-term noise. If it's bigger, then you have a bigger problem.